Hello, my friends. Glad you're here. Like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. The desert is honest during the day. At night, it lies. I learned that after midnight, driving west on Highway 62, when the stars were so bright they looked sharp enough to cut, and the road stretched ahead like a single unbroken thought. I'd been on the road for hours, long enough for my mind to drift and circle back on itself, long enough for guilt to start whispering again. That was why I was driving, not to get somewhere, to get away. The clock on the dashboard read 1:03 a.m. The odometer ticked steadily upward. The AM radio played faint static under a distant voice, some late-night talk show arguing about nothing important, normal, comforting. I remember thinking, if I just keep driving, everything will settle. That's when the radio went silent, not static, not a fade, just gone. I tapped the dash, twisted the knob, nothing. Then a voice came through, clear, calm, and very close. "Driver," it said, "please confirm you are alone." I froze. The road hummed beneath the tires. Wind brushed the car's frame. Everything else was still. What?" I said. The voice didn't repeat itself. Instead, the radio crackled and a tone sounded. 3 short beeps, then 1 long one. "Signal locked," the voice continued. "Beginning night log." I laughed nervously. "This some kind of broadcast?" "No," it said. "This is for you." The desert changed subtly after that, not in ways you'd notice right away. The road stayed straight. The stars stayed fixed. But the darkness beyond my headlights felt thicker, like a wall instead of open space. My mirrors showed nothing but black, as if the desert behind me had been erased. I sped up. The engine responded, but the speedometer stayed fixed at 65 miles per hour. I slowed. Still 65. "That's not funny," I muttered. The radio clicked softly. "Speed accepted," the voice said. "Proceed to mile marker 30. I stared ahead. There hadn't been mile markers for at least 20 minutes. Then I saw one. Mile 30, fresh paint, bright reflective numbers. As I passed it, the radio chimed. "Good," the voice said. "Memory synchronization stable." My chest tightened. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "You know who I am." The odometer clicked. Instead of numbers, letters appeared. JAMES, my name. I nearly swerved off the road. The odometer continued to roll. MARTIN, my last name. I slammed the brakes. The car slowed, but did not stop. The desert ahead warped, the road stretching unnaturally long, the mile marker shrinking away from me like it was being pulled backward. "Emergency braking denied," the radio said calmly. "You're not finished." I tried my phone. No signal, no data, no time. Just a black screen that reflected my own pale face back at me. The radio hissed softly, then spoke again. "Do you remember mile 12? My stomach dropped. I did. I just hadn't thought about it in years. "That was an accident," I said quickly. "It wasn't my fault." The desert wind rose suddenly, rattling the car windows. Sand skittered across the road like running feet. "Mile 12, the voice repeated. "Record shows no emergency call placed." I panicked, I whispered. "Record shows vehicle departed scene." The road ahead dipped slightly. A mile marker appeared. Mile 12. The desert around it was darker than the rest. The sand clumped and uneven, like it had been disturbed recently. I shook my head violently. "I didn't mean to." "You left," the voice said. "Proceed." Something appeared in the road. A shape, human-sized, standing exactly where the marker was. I screamed and yanked the wheel. The car resisted. I passed through the shape. For half a second, my headlights illuminated a man lying on the road, eyes wide, mouth open in a soundless scream, one leg bent the wrong way. Then he was gone. The mile marker behind me shattered into dust. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the wheel. The radio crackled again. Night log updated, it said. Proceed to mile marker 5. No, I said hoarsely. I'm done. I'm pulling over. You cannot stop, the voice replied gently. Stopping is the same as arriving. The desert road narrowed, the shoulders falling away into darkness. The stars above blurred, smearing into long white lines like scratches in the sky. I started to cry. Not loud sobs, just silent tears slipping down my face as memory after memory surfaced. Things I had buried so deep I'd convinced myself they weren't real. A phone buzzing while I drove, a flash of movement, a body in the road. I hadn't even checked his pulse. The radio tone sounded again, 3 short, 1 long. Mile marker 5, the voice said. The marker stood crooked, barely holding itself upright. Something leaned against it. A woman. Her clothes were torn. Her face was bruised. Blood matted her hair. She looked directly at me. I screamed and shut my eyes. When I opened them, she was inside the car, sitting in the passenger seat. Her presence sucked the warmth from the air. Why didn't you stop? She asked softly. I was scared, I sobbed. I didn't know what to do. She tilted her head. You knew. Her hand rested on the dashboard. It left a smear of sand and blood. The radio spoke over her. Proceed to mile marker 0. The road ahead collapsed into a long, straight descent. The desert vanished. Darkness swallowed everything beyond my headlights. The odometer spun wildly, letters replacing numbers, names flashing too fast to read. Hundreds of them, thousands. The woman faded from the seat, her outline dissolving into dust. You're not the first, the radio said, just the one who came back. Back from where? I whispered. Mile 0, it replied. The final marker stood at the bottom of the descent. Mile 0. Nothing else, no road beyond it, just open desert. The car slowed on its own, stopped, the engine cut out. The silence was absolute. My door unlocked with a soft click. Exit the vehicle, the voice instructed. I stepped out. The air was cold and still. The stars hung low, wrong somehow, as if they were watching. The ground in front of me was covered in objects, phones, wallets, keys, personal things, hundreds of them. At the center stood a mirror mounted on a bent road sign. I approached it slowly. The reflection wasn't quite right. My eyes were too dark. My face looked older, hollower. Confession required, the voice said. I'm sorry, I whispered. I should have stopped. I should have helped. The mirror cracked. Insufficient, the voice replied. The desert shifted. Cars appeared around me, engines idling, headlights on. Inside each one sat a driver, staring forward, hands locked on the wheel, eyes empty. Say it, the voice demanded. I killed them, I said. The words tasted like blood. The mirror shattered. The ground fell away. I woke up driving. The desert was gone. City lights stretched ahead. Traffic moved normally around me. The radio played music. The clock read 1:03 a.m. The odometer showed numbers again. I laughed hysterically, relief flooding my chest. Then the radio whispered. Night log paused. A mile marker passed on the right, mile 29. My phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown audio file, playing my own voice filled the car. If you're hearing this, it said, shaking, don't take the highway at night. Don't ignore the radio, and whatever you do, the audio cut out. The radio tone sounded, 3 short, 1 long. Mile marker 30 approaching, the voice said calmly. The desert waits for everyone. Some of us just drive back into it. I was already regretting the drive before anything went wrong. It was past midnight when I left the city, the kind of hour when the ocean air creeps inland and turns everything damp and quiet. My headlights caught mist rising off the road like breath from something sleeping beneath the asphalt. The radio played an old song I half recognized, but the signal wavered, stretching notes into something mournful. I was supposed to take the main highway. Instead, my GPS chimed softly. Faster route available, coastal road. I hesitated. The coastal road was longer, narrower, and barely lit. Locals avoided it at night. Too many blind curves, too much fog, too many stories about cars found abandoned near the cliffs with the doors still open. But the detour shaved 20 minutes off the drive. I tapped accept. The road changed almost immediately. Streetlights thinned, then vanished. The pavement narrowed, hugging the coastline so closely I could hear waves crashing somewhere below, though I couldn't see the water. Fog rolled in thick sheets, swallowing my headlights after a few car lengths. The GPS spoke again. Continue straight for 6 miles. 6 miles didn't sound so bad. The problem was that after 10 minutes, I passed the same rusted guardrail twice. I slowed. The guardrail bent inward at the same spot, a section crushed as if something large had hit it long ago. Beyond it, darkness dropped away into nothing. I told myself the fog was playing tricks on me. Then I saw the sign. A small, reflective marker nailed crookedly to a post. Mile 3. I frowned. I was sure I'd already passed mile 3. I drove on. The fog thickened, pressing against the windshield like a living thing. I turned the wipers on, but they smeared moisture instead of clearing it. My phone buzzed. No service. The GPS line flickered, then redrew itself, still insisting the road ahead was straight, even as I took a curve so sharp my tires protested. That's when I noticed the other car. Its headlights appeared behind me without warning, bright and close, riding my bumper. I hadn't seen it approach. No engine noise, no indication it had been there before. I sped up slightly. So did it. The fog parted just enough for me to glimpse its shape in my rearview mirror. An older sedan, paint color impossible to tell under the grime. The headlights flickered like candles. I slowed. It slowed too. An uneasy pressure settled in my chest. Go around, I muttered. Just pass me. The car didn't. Its headlights pulsed once, twice. Then, abruptly, they vanished. The road behind me was empty. I let out a shaky breath and laughed. Okay, great, fine. That laugh died quickly, because a child's voice came from the back seat. Why didn't you stop? I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly on the damp pavement before stopping dead. Silence. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Slowly, carefully, I turned my head. The back seat was empty. No child, no shadow, no sign anyone had been there. I swallowed hard. Just tired, I whispered. The GPS spoke again. You missed your turn. What turn? I snapped. The screen showed a road branching off to the right. There was no road there. Just fog and a steep drop. I shook my head. Nope, not happening. I put the car back in drive and continued straight. The GPS recalculated, then recalculated again, then went silent. The fog began to glow. Not brightly, just enough to give the world a dim gray-blue cast, like moonlight filtered through water. The ocean sounds grew louder, closer, though the road still clung to solid ground. I passed another marker. Mile 3. Same crooked post, same peeling paint. My mouth went dry. That's not possible, I said aloud. Something moved in the fog ahead. A shape stepped into my headlights. I slammed the brakes again. A woman stood in the road. She wore a long coat that fluttered as if underwater. Her hair clung to her face, wet and dark. She stared at me with wide, glassy eyes. Please, she said, her voice barely audible over the surf. My son is still down there. She pointed toward the guardrail. I shook my head. I can call someone. You already did, she interrupted. My phone buzzed, a missed call, from an unknown number. The woman's eyes flicked to the dashboard clock. Before it got late, she added softly. The fog surged. She was gone. I didn't stop again. The road began to slope downward, subtle at first, then unmistakable. The smell of salt intensified, sharp and cold. The guardrail reappeared, closer to the edge now, its metal twisted and scarred. The radio crackled back to life. Not music, breathing, slow, wet, close. I turned it off. The breathing continued, from the vents, from the back seat, from inside my head. "Keep driving," a voice whispered. "You're almost there." "There where?" I demanded. The dashboard lights flickered. The clock reset. 12 a.m. The road ended, not gradually. It simply stopped. My headlights illuminated open space ahead, fog swirling where pavement should have been. Beyond it, the ocean roared, black and endless. I screamed and jerked the wheel. The car didn't respond. It rolled forward, slowly, relentlessly. The front tires left the asphalt. Time stretched thin. I felt weightless, suspended between breath and impact. And then the car lurched back onto solid ground. I gasped. The road was there again, intact, dry, the ocean distant. My hands shook violently. "That didn't happen," I whispered. "The GPS turned on by itself." "Route recalculated," it said calmly. "Proceed to destination." The destination field read, "Return." The fog thinned just enough for me to see lights ahead. A small coastal town, warm yellow windows, street lamps glowing softly. A harbor visible beyond the buildings, boats rocking gently. Relief crashed over me. I drove into town, tires humming on smoother pavement. The streets were empty, but welcoming, too welcoming. Every light was green, every storefront open, though I saw no one inside. I parked near the harbor and stepped out. The air smelled wrong, not fish or salt or oil. It smelled old, stagnant, like something sealed away. I walked toward the water. Boats sat tethered to the docks, their names faded and peeling. One name caught my eye. Second Chance. I leaned closer, scratched beneath it, barely visible. First wasn't enough. The water shifted. Something moved beneath the surface. I stepped back as shapes rose. Cars, dozens of them, half submerged and rusted, their headlights glowing faintly under the waves like drowned stars. My car, I saw it, the dent on the door, the cracked taillight. My breath hitched. Footsteps sounded behind me. I turned. The woman from the road stood there, the child beside her now. His hand clutched hers tightly. "You didn't stop," she said. "I tried to leave," I whispered. She shook her head. "You took the faster route." The child looked up at me. His eyes were full of fog. "Are you going to stay this time?" he asked. The ground trembled. The town lights flickered. Buildings peeled away like stage props, revealing fog and darkness behind them. The harbor vanished. The road returned. My car idled beside me, door open, engine purring patiently. "Everyone comes back," the woman said gently. "The road makes sure of it." I backed away. "No, I'm going home," she smiled sadly. "You are home." I'm driving again. The fog never fully lifts now. Sometimes I hear waves beneath the road. Sometimes a child asks me why I didn't stop. The GPS doesn't offer faster routes anymore. It just says, "Continue." If you're driving late near the coast and your navigation suggests a shortcut, ignore it. Because some roads don't lead to destinations. They lead to debts. And the fog always collects. I didn't notice anything wrong at first. That's the part that scares me the most now, how ordinary it all felt. I was driving home after a late shift, the kind that leaves your head buzzing and your body hollowed out. The highway was mostly empty, the asphalt glowing dully under spaced-out streetlights. My coffee had gone cold in the cup holder. The radio murmured low enough to be background noise. Just another night drive. I remember thinking how calm everything felt. That's usually when it starts. I merged onto Route 9 at 12:38 a.m., confirmed by the dashboard clock. The road cut straight through a stretch of forest that locals avoided after dark. They said the exits were confusing, that people missed turns and ended up lost for hours. I'd driven it dozens of times. Tonight, though, the forest looked wrong. The trees weren't swaying. There was no wind. Their branches leaned inward, arching over the road in a way that felt deliberate, like they were closing ranks behind me. The darkness between them wasn't natural. It was too deep, swallowing the edges of my headlights instead of reflecting them. I turned the radio up a notch. Static crackled, then resolved into a voice, not music. A man speaking slowly, carefully, like every word mattered. "You are now entering the listening portion of the drive." I frowned and reached for the dial. The voice continued. "Do not adjust your radio. Do not leave your vehicle. Remain attentive." I twisted the knob hard. Nothing changed. The dashboard lights flickered once, then steadied. The clock still read 12:38. The first exit sign appeared a mile later. Exit 17, River Road. I relaxed. That was normal. River Road led back toward town. I didn't need it yet, but seeing something familiar eased the tightness in my chest. I passed the exit without slowing. 2 minutes later, I saw the same sign again. Same scratches, same bent corner. Exit 17, River Road. My foot eased off the gas. "That's not possible," I muttered. I checked the rearview mirror. The road behind me was long and empty, no sign of the exit I'd just passed. Ahead, the highway stretched on, unchanged. I told myself it was a mistake. Duplicate signs happened, human error. Then I passed exit 17 a third time, and a fourth. Each time, the forest grew closer to the shoulder. Each time, the sign looked a little older, more rusted, more tired. On the fifth pass, something had been added beneath the lettering. Small text, handwritten. "You missed it." My phone buzzed. I nearly dropped it when I picked it up. No signal bars, no notifications, just a single open app I didn't remember launching. A voice recorder. It was playing. My voice came through the speaker, thin and distorted. "I don't know how long I've been driving," it said. "The exits keep repeating. If this is still recording and you're hearing this," the audio cut off abruptly. The timestamp read 12:38 a.m. My grip on the wheel tightened until my fingers ached. I hadn't recorded that, had I? The road began to slope downward, not steeply, just enough that my ears popped slightly. The streetlights disappeared, replaced by darkness lit only by my headlights. The beams felt weaker now, shorter, as if something was absorbing the light ahead of me. I tried the brakes. They worked. That should have reassured me. It didn't, because when I pressed the accelerator again, the car didn't speed up. The speedometer needle stayed locked at 55 miles per hour. I shifted gears. Nothing changed. The engine hummed steadily, unbothered by my panic. Then, the radio clicked back on. "Segment 2, the same calm voice said. "Driver awareness test." My chest tightened. "Turn off," I whispered, spinning the dial again. "Please identify the sound." A noise rose beneath the engine hum, a rhythmic thump, thump, thump. At first, I thought it was a flat tire. Then I realized it was too slow, too deliberate. It sounded like something being struck against metal. From underneath the car. I glanced at the passenger seat. There was something there that hadn't been there before. A folded piece of paper, yellowed, creased like it had been opened and closed many times. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to acknowledge it. The thumping grew louder. "Failure to respond will be recorded," the radio voice continued. I reached for the paper with shaking fingers and unfolded it. Written in my handwriting were the words, "Do not stop. Do not look under the car. Do not trust the mirrors." I laughed, a sharp, hysterical sound. "Okay," I said. "Okay, sure." The laughter died quickly, because the rearview mirror flickered. For half a second, I saw headlights behind me, then faces, pressed together inside a car that was too small to hold them all. Their mouths moved in unison, forming silent words. I snapped my eyes forward again. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. The road flattened out. A new sign appeared ahead. Exit 0. Last stop. I didn't slow down. The exit ramp peeled away to the right, descending sharply into darkness. As I passed it, I felt a pressure change in the car, like something heavy had just climbed inside. The passenger seat dipped. The smell hit me next. Stale breath, damp fabric, something old. I kept my eyes locked on the road. "I'm not stopping," I said aloud. "I'm not looking." The radio crackled softly. "Good," the voice said. Most people fail at this stage. The thumping beneath the car stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Time began to behave strangely. The clock still read 12:38, but the sky ahead lightened slightly, like the beginning of dawn frozen in place. My fuel gauge hadn't moved. My phone battery stayed at 47%, but my body felt wrong. Heavy. Tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix. I blinked and missed things. A billboard I didn't remember passing. A bend in the road that left my stomach lurching as if it had appeared out of nowhere. Then I saw myself. Standing on the shoulder, I slammed the brakes. The car slowed, too slowly, but enough that I could see clearly. It was me. Same clothes, same face, eyes wide and terrified. As I rolled past, the other me banged on the window, screaming silently. I didn't look away fast enough. In the mirror, I saw it run after the car, mouth stretching wider than it should, skin pulling tight over its bones. The radio sighed. "You left something behind." I started to remember things I hadn't lived. Crashes, screams, hands pulling me from wreckage, the sound of metal folding. The car jerked violently. Something underneath finally gave way. The front end dipped, scraping against the asphalt in a shower of sparks. I fought the wheel as the car slowed to a crawl. Then it stopped. Dead center of the road, the engine cut out. The radio fell silent. I sat there, breathing hard, staring at my reflection in the windshield. It smiled back. I hadn't. "Get out!" a voice whispered from the back seat. I shook my head. "No, you can't finish the drive like this." The passenger door opened by itself. Cold air rushed in. I smelled rain, blood, burnt rubber. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, I was standing on the road. The car was gone. So was the highway. I stood alone in a clearing surrounded by trees, their trunks scarred with old impact marks. Shards of glass glittered in the dirt. At the center of the clearing lay a wrecked car. My car. Inside it was a body. Mine. I backed away, heart hammering. Footsteps approached from the darkness. Figures emerged. Drivers, dozens of them, each carrying the weight of unfinished journeys. Some were transparent. Some were wrong in subtle ways. The calm-voiced man stepped forward. "You stopped," he said gently. "I didn't know," I whispered. "No one ever does," he replied. "Do you want to continue?" I looked past him. A road stretched onward, forming itself from shadow and memory. Endless, waiting. I nodded. "I'm driving again now. The radio's quiet. The exits don't have names anymore. Sometimes I see myself on the shoulder, waving me down. Sometimes I hear thumping beneath the car. The clock still says 12:38. If you're driving late at night and the radio starts talking instead of playing music, don't answer, and whatever you do, don't stop. Because some drives don't end. They just replace you." I started driving at 1:12 a.m. I know that because I checked the dashboard 3 times, uneasy with how late it was and how awake I still felt. The night had a strange clarity to it, too sharp, like the world had been polished clean. Every sound carried farther than it should have. Every shadow felt intentional. I told myself I was just tired. That was a lie I would repeat often before the night was over. I'd promised myself I wouldn't take the old highway again. Too many accidents, too many stories. Locals said the road swallowed people whole, that sometimes headlights went in and never came out the other side. But the detour added 40 minutes, and my phone's GPS rerouted me automatically. "Faster route found," it chirped. I didn't argue. The highway entrance yawned open ahead of me, a long concrete mouth lined with dead grass and flickering lamps. Once I merged, the city fell away almost instantly. No traffic, no taillights, just an endless stretch of asphalt unspooling beneath my wheels. The radio played low jazz, the signal fading in and out. I turned the volume down until it was barely there, just enough to remind me I wasn't alone. That's when I noticed the mile markers. They were counting down. Mile 12, mile 11, mile 10. I frowned. I was sure this highway ran away from the city. The numbers should have been going up. I told myself they'd just been replaced incorrectly. Bureaucratic incompetence made more sense than what my gut was suggesting. Then I passed mile 10 again. Same sign, same dent on the metal post, same smear of something dark near the bottom. My hands tightened on the wheel. I sped up. The engine responded smoothly, the hum steady and reassuring. Headlights carved twin tunnels through the dark. Trees crowded the edges of the road, their branches interlocking overhead like ribs. The GPS screen flickered. The map zoomed out, then out again, until the road beneath me was just a thin white line suspended in black nothingness. "No signal," the device said calmly. The jazz on the radio warped into a long, sustained note, then cut out entirely. Silence rushed in. Not peaceful silence, pressurized silence, the kind that made my ears ring. That's when something moved in the road ahead. I hit the brakes. The car slowed, tires whining, and I realized with a spike of panic that the thing hadn't reacted to my headlights at all. It stood in the center of the lane, not a deer, not a person. It was tall, thin, and facing away from me. Its proportions were wrong, too long in some places, too narrow in others, like it had been stretched. Its head tilted slightly, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. I stopped 20 feet away. The thing didn't move. "Hey," I called, hating the tremor in my voice. "You can't stand there." Its head turned, not smoothly. It jerked, snapping around in tiny broken increments until it was facing me. There was no face, just a flat, pale surface that reflected my headlights like fogged glass. Then it stepped aside, off the road, inviting me forward. I slammed the accelerator. The car surged past, and for a split second, my peripheral vision caught movement, something running alongside me, matching my speed, just beyond the reach of the light. When I checked the rearview mirror, the road behind me was empty. I didn't slow down again. The mile markers continued their countdown. Mile 5, mile 4, mile 3. With each sign, the air inside the car grew heavier. Breathing took effort, like the oxygen had been thinned. The smell came next, burnt rubber, old rain, and underneath it all, something metallic and sweet. Blood. I swallowed hard and rolled down the window. The smell didn't change. The tapping started shortly after, soft at first. Tap, tap, from somewhere underneath the car. I gripped the wheel, knuckles aching, as the tapping turned into dragging. A scrape that vibrated through the frame, sending shivers up my spine. Whatever it was, it stayed with me. Mile 1. My headlights flickered. The road ahead dipped sharply, descending into a pocket of darkness so deep it looked solid. A sign loomed at the top of the slope. No number. Just words. Last mile. I didn't remember this highway having an end. The descent felt wrong. Not steep enough to justify the pressure building in my ears. Not long enough to explain the way the world seemed to tilt sideways. Halfway down, my phone rang. No ringtone, just vibration. The screen showed no caller ID. I answered without thinking. "Hello?" For a moment, there was static. Then, someone whispered my name. Not the way strangers say it, not the way friends do, the way I say it, under my breath, when I'm alone. "You shouldn't have come back," the voice said. My throat tightened. "Back from where?" A pause. Then, "You don't remember the crash." The road leveled out abruptly. The car jolted. I screamed as the headlights illuminated twisted metal ahead, guardrails bent inward, asphalt torn open, black skid marks frozen in time. A crash site, my crash site. The car rolled to a stop without my input. The engine cut out. The silence that followed was absolute. I got out of the car. I don't know why. Every instinct screamed at me to stay inside, but something stronger pulled me forward. The air outside was cold and damp, clinging to my skin. The wreckage sat just off the road. My car, or what was left of it, wrapped around a tree, the front end crushed beyond recognition. Glass glittered on the ground like ice. Dried blood streaked the driver's side door. My door. My legs carried me closer. Inside, slumped over the steering wheel, was a body. My body. My face was turned just enough for me to see the blank, unseeing eyes. The skin had taken on that grayish tone that comes from being outside too long. I staggered back, bile burning my throat. "That's not possible," I whispered. The woods answered with a low, distant sound. Engines, headlights appeared between the trees, dozens of them, weaving through the forest, converging on the road. Cars, all kinds, old, new, wrecked, pristine. They formed a line behind mine, stretching back into the darkness. Doors opened, people stepped out. Every one of them was injured in some way. Bandages, bloodstains, unnatural angles. Some walked stiffly, some dragged themselves forward. All of them stared at me, at the version of me that was still breathing. "This is the last mile," someone said. I turned. The faceless thing from earlier stood beside me, its pale surface reflecting the glow of the headlights. "Everyone has to drive it," it continued. "Some stop early, some make it this far." "What happens now?" I asked. It tilted its head. "That depends," it said. "Do you remember what you did?" Images flooded back. The argument, the rain, the speed, the phone lighting up in my hand, the tree. "I wasn't supposed to survive," I said. "No," the thing agreed. "You weren't." The line of people began to move forward, merging into the road, fading one by one as they stepped onto the asphalt. I felt something tug at me, pulling me toward the wreck, toward the body. "You can go back," the thing said softly, "or you can keep driving." I looked at the road ahead. It stretched on, smooth and empty, disappearing into darkness. I looked at the wreck behind me, at the life I'd already lost. I chose the car. I'm driving again now. The road is familiar, comforting even. Sometimes I see headlights in my mirror, getting closer. Sometimes I hear tapping beneath the frame. The mile markers are gone. There's no radio, no GPS, no phone, just the hum of the engine and the knowledge that I'm not alone on this highway. If you find yourself driving late at night and your GPS suggests a shortcut, ignore it. Some roads don't take you home, they take you back. I didn't plan to drive that night. If I'm being honest, I don't even remember deciding to get into the car. I just remember the quiet, thick, pressing silence inside my apartment and the way the walls seemed to lean inward, as if listening. My phone was dead. The power flickered twice and stayed off. Outside, the streetlights buzzed like insects trapped in glass. So I grabbed my keys. The clock on the microwave said 11:47 p.m. when I left. I remember that because the numbers were blinking, frozen mid-minute, like time itself had hesitated. The air outside was colder than it should have been for early fall. My breath fogged as I locked the door behind me. No wind, no traffic. Just the low hum of electricity and the distant bark of a dog that sounded wrong, too stretched out, like the sound had been pulled thin before reaching my ears. I got into my car and started driving with no destination in mind. That was the first mistake. The roads were nearly empty, which wasn't unusual at that hour, but something about it felt staged, like a movie set after the actors had gone home. Every intersection I passed through was perfectly timed, green lights welcoming me through, never forcing me to stop. The radio came on by itself, a wash of static, then a voice, not music, not a DJ, just a low murmur as if someone were speaking from another room. I reached to turn it off. The knob spun freely. No click, no resistance. The sound didn't change. My headlights cut through the darkness ahead, revealing long stretches of asphalt bordered by trees that leaned toward the road. Their branches tangled together above me, forming a tunnel. I didn't remember this road being here, but I told myself I'd just taken a wrong turn. I always took wrong turns. The voice on the radio became clearer. "Still with us? Don't stop." I shut the radio off completely by yanking the fuse panel open and pulling wires until the sound died in a sharp pop. My hands were shaking when I closed it. That should have been the moment I turned around. Instead, I kept driving. The farther I went, the worse the road became. The pavement cracked and buckled, lines fading into nothing. My GPS showed a straight blue line, but the road twisted and curved like something alive. The distance counter stopped updating. The time estimate vanished. Then the screen went black. The car kept moving. I tried to slow down. The brake pedal sank to the floor with no resistance. My heart slammed against my ribs as I pumped it again and again. Nothing. The speedometer needle hovered at 45 miles per hour, unmoving like it had been painted there. I shifted into neutral. The engine revved, but the car didn't slow. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay. This is fine." The trees pressed closer. The air inside the car felt heavy, stale, as if it hadn't been replaced in a long time. I cracked the window. The smell hit me immediately. Cold metal, wet earth, and something else, faint but unmistakable. Rot. I rolled the window back up. That's when I saw the headlights ahead of me. A car sat stopped in the middle of the road. Its taillights glowed a dull, exhausted red. No hazard lights, no movement. I leaned on the horn. The sound came out wrong, muted, distorted, like it was underwater. As I got closer, I realized something else was wrong. The car wasn't on the road. The road bent around it. The asphalt curved inward, like the car had been there so long the ground had grown to accommodate it. I tried to swerve. The steering wheel resisted me, stiffening in my hands. I was being guided. I passed the car at a crawl, my headlights sweeping across it. The windows were fogged from the inside, handprints pressed against the glass. From the inside. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The road straightened abruptly, and the trees fell away, replaced by open darkness. No stars, no moon, just a vast, empty black that swallowed my headlights after a few yards. The clock on my dashboard flickered. 12 a.m. It stayed there. I laughed, short and sharp, the sound breaking apart as it left my mouth. "Real funny," I said to no one. That's when the tapping started. At first it was soft, irregular. Tap, 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 like fingernails against glass. I stared straight ahead, every muscle locked in place. The tapping moved, from the passenger side window to the back seat, then directly behind my head. The rear-view mirror darkened, not with shadow, but with something thicker. The reflection warped, stretching my own face until it looked unfamiliar. A shape emerged behind me, not fully visible, just impressions. Too many angles. A suggestion of limbs folded the wrong way. It leaned closer. I felt its breath against my ear. "You missed your exit," it said. Its voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I screamed and jerked the wheel. The road dropped out from under me. The car plunged, not down a hill, not into a ditch, just down. The darkness swallowed everything. The sensation of falling stretched impossibly long, my stomach twisting as gravity lost meaning. The speedometer needle spun wildly, then snapped off entirely. Then, impact. The car slammed onto solid ground with a bone-jarring crunch. The airbags didn't deploy. The engine didn't stall. I was still driving. The road looked normal again. 2 lanes, fresh paint, reflective signs. A green sign loomed ahead. "Welcome back." No town name, no distance markers, just that. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. It had turned itself on. 1 missed call, from my own number. Before I could think, it rang again. I answered. "Hello?" For a moment, there was only breathing. My breathing. Then my voice spoke. "I wouldn't stop if I were you," it said. "They notice when you stop." My hands tightened on the wheel. "Who is this?" Silence. Then, "You already know." The call ended. The phone screen showed the time. 11:47 p.m. The road signs started repeating. Same curve warning, same speed limit, same welcome back sign. Again and again, each time a little more worn, a little more crooked. I passed a gas station. Its lights were on. I slammed the brakes out of instinct. The car slowed, stopped, Relief flooded me so hard it made me dizzy. I grabbed the door handle and realized the silence was gone. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the steering wheel, the seats, my bones. The gas station's lights flickered, casting long, broken shadows. Figures stood beneath the awning, too still, too many. Their faces were turned toward me, though I couldn't see their eyes. The hum deepened. The figures took one step forward. I released the brake. The car rolled forward smoothly, like it had been waiting. The gas station vanished in my rearview mirror, swallowed by darkness. My phone buzzed again. A text this time. Keep driving. I don't know how long I drove after that. Minutes, hours, days. The road never ended. The scenery changed just enough to keep me hoping. Forests, deserts, abandoned neighborhoods. But the sky remained the same starless void. Sometimes I'd see other cars, always ahead, always stopped. I never passed another one again. The tapping returned occasionally, always from somewhere I couldn't see. The radio whispered when I wasn't looking at it. The mirror showed things that weren't there when I turned around. And slowly, subtly, the car began to feel less like a machine and more like a cocoon. Warm. Safe. I stopped feeling hungry, stopped feeling tired, stopped feeling scared. That terrified me most of all. Eventually, the road led back to my street. My apartment building stood exactly where it should be. Lights on, windows glowing warmly. My car slowed on its own, stopped. The engine idled patiently. My phone buzzed one last time, a notification. Trip summary distance, NA time, elapsed, NA destination, home. Below it, smaller text, do you want to end the drive? My hand hovered over the screen. The apartment door opened. I saw myself standing there, keys in hand, looking out at the car with a confused expression. The clock inside read 11:47 p.m. The engine purred. The road ahead stretched on, waiting. I looked at the version of me on the sidewalk, then back at the road. I'm still driving. If you're reading this and it's late and you feel the urge to go for a night drive, don't. Some roads don't lead anywhere, they just keep you. Comment below if you want more stories like this.